everyone. Welcome to Survivor Live. This season, we are getting up close and personal with our castaways. Tweet us using hashtag Survivor Live. We'll incorporate you into the conversation as we go. And as always, be sure to stick around for that exclusive extended preview that we'll show you after this show. Without further ado, we have the last remaining beauty, Jefra Bland, joining us in the studio today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. So great to be here. Great to meet you. Hate the circumstances, but good to be here.
I know. Well, we're happy to have you.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, my torch got snuffed last night, so now I get to be on Survivor Live.
Yeah, and you're the last remaining beauty.
The last remaining beauty. You know, someone asked me earlier, do I think that they were really trying to pick the beauties off, or was it just the luck of the draw? And with all the blindsides and the ups and downs, I think it was just the luck of the draw.
Yeah. Well, I know that you've been talking to a lot of people at press today, and you've been receiving a lot of feedback from your fans on Twitter about not switching. So let's just go ahead and get that question out of the way and ask you, do you wish you would have flipped? Do you regret not flipping? Was there anything that you wish you would have done differently?
Sure. At that point in the game, I don't regret not flipping. When I left the barbecue to go back to camp to meet with the tribe, the game plan was that I was supposed to convince either Trish or Cass to flip with me. And when I left for the reward challenge, they were just as bitter and just as mad about the LJ vote as I was, toward Tony. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well, this will be no-brainer. Surely Cass will flip, she's wishy-washy anyway, or Trish will for sure flip because, she's mad about LJ. And when I got back to camp, I guess Tony, had just blown everyone's head up that we needed to stick together 5 strong and stick with the alliance, so nobody was ready to flip with me.
That blows my mind, because even though he left all of you guys out of the loop with the LJ blindside, everyone still thinks they're his number one?
Yes, everyone. So I continued to spend the afternoon to try to get them to switch, and they then pull Tony in to clear the air, to tell me he's not out for me and this and that. Basically, back to answer the question about, do I regret not flipping? Obviously now going out 7th, I wonder, well, what would have happened had I flipped or had I drawn rocks? But at the time, I just couldn't see myself going out by drawing a rock when I was guaranteed safety if I stayed with them. I didn't trust them. I didn't want to stay with them. Couldn't stand Tony at that point. And
did you like Spencer and Tasha? Because Tasha looks incredibly likable.
Yeah, I did. I really did. And I really got along with Spencer on the reward challenges that we went on, but I knew that they were both a huge threat. I mean, Tasha is on an immunity challenge roll, and that's why the episode where we were getting rid of Morgan, I tried to convince Tony. We're standing there in the water, and I was like, Tony, why would we not get rid of Tasha? Morgan is not a threat. And I called it in the water. I said, she's going to go on an immunity run, and we're not going to be able to get her out. And that's exactly what happened.
Oh, you gave her the power.
That's what happened.
Your words are very powerful.
I wish I was still there.
Did you realize that? Well, we were talking about something pretty funny before the show got started. I'm going to let you guys in on the loop. It was about the chickens and your farm, where you come from. And I was wondering, because you are a former Miss Teen Kentucky, so pageant girl and, Survivor, I wouldn't think would be a very easy jump.
Sure.
But you have a background on a farm.
Sure.
And so you do know where chickens come from. And you were a part of that conversation that was maybe the funniest conversation we've seen on Survivor. So let's talk about it. Where do chickens come from?
So yeah, I am super outdoorsy. Everybody just sees me, they deemed me on the beauty tribe for the whole Miss Kentucky thing, but I hunt and I fish, and I grew up on our family farm, and we had soybeans and corns, and I've been around dairy farming and chicken coops and just everything in my day. So chickens, what we were discussing, which nobody could seem to get through to anyone how the whole process works. But since we were talking about it earlier, basically chickens obviously lay eggs, but not all of them are fertilized. So not all of them have baby chickens in them. If it's just the hen laying an egg and keeping it warm, it's like a scrambled egg that you would eat.
Okay, so you don't have to be worried when you're going to crack an egg that you're going to find a baby chicken.
Right. But if there's a rooster involved and the egg is fertilized, then the rooster will lay the egg, and
that's when you have to be
have
concerned.
baby chickens. Yes.
Okay, I'm glad that we cleared the air on that one.
And
and another thing, so you've never killed a chicken yourself?
I've never personally killed a chicken. I've heard tons of stories, though, from where I'm from of people, that just used to be the way of life before, you had supermarkets everywhere and could just run out and grab, a pack of grilled chicken breast that's already like cut and sliced for you and cleaned. And
so was Survivor like a trip back in time for you?
Kind of, somewhat. I mean, I never really experienced it, but it didn't bother me, so to speak. I mean, I am a hunter. I've killed plenty of deer, and not just to like slay animals. I've got a ton of negative criticism on Twitter and on my Instagram, like hunting pictures. People are like, how can you just kill innocent animals? But we eat the game that we kill, all of the doves that we dove hunt, and it's great. And
this
the
is
deer.
blowing my mind. I can't believe you're such a sweet, like cute.
And I do. I gut all of the deer that I clean. That's my dad's rule. If you're going to shoot it, you're going to clean it. So I'm not just the girly girl that's like going to pretend I'm going to shoot it and then not clean it. But we also have a program in Kentucky called Hunters Feed the Hungry. So anything that you don't want to keep, you take to this program, and they turn it into game that feeds hungry people. So it's a great thing. And I've gotten so much negative criticism about that from lots of people through Survivor. So.
So since you are so outdoorsy and you can obviously handle yourself, why let Jeremiah and LJ do everything for you in the beginning of the season?
When we were on the beauty tribe, it wasn't like we just like laid around and did nothing. I mean, obviously that's how it looks watching it. That's kind of how it was edited.
Maybe you did Morgan.
Right. Maybe a little bit. She did, and she wasn't really like very proactive when it would come to like starting the fires or anything like that. I mean, I would often walk to the water well, but the rice, it all kind of started as a joke. One morning, LJ got up really early and he cooked rice like for himself. Like he was just hungry, and he woke up before everybody. Like the sun was barely coming up, and there was still some coal, so he was able to get the fire going, and he cooked rice to eat. Well, obviously he's going to go ahead and make enough for everybody because it's early, So
he did it to himself.
Yeah, and so then it became a reoccurring thing that he would get up early and he would cook this rice. Well, literally they would put it on the plate and like sit it by the shelter, and then they're like, oh, breakfast in bed. Like they did it to themselves.
Oh, wow.
So you think I'm going to wake up and go cook the rice when they're providing for us?
No way.
No, I mean, I was just enjoying it.
Yeah,
but,
save your energy for challenges.
Alexis and I definitely were trying to like strategize from the very beginning, and we stuck together, and then we teamed up. We saw that Jeremiah and LJ were tight, so we, obviously bonded with them, which kind of left Morgan and Bryce on the bottom. And so from there on, when Jeremiah was kind of flipping back and forth and Morgan called him out on it, there was just like no loyalty anywhere among the beauty tribe.
Yeah, we noticed that, and especially as it got further into the game, when you guys switched it up, it looks like you bond with Trish more than anyone else.
Yes.
And I was watching some of your behind the scenes on CBS.com, so I watched your aside interviews where you were talking about your connection with Trish.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that. Was that strategic, or was that something that was just really natural?
It was really natural. Trish has 2 daughters who are about my age, and I'm very close with my mom, who was like Trish's age. So we had like an instant like mother-daughter connection, and getting to know her, we've been through a lot of the same things in life and some of the same struggles, and we bonded very instantly. And it wasn't actually when I formed such a strong alliance with LJ until about the same time that Trish came in the picture as well, because when we were on the beauty tribe, LJ and I weren't. Alexis was like my number one. It wasn't until the swap that LJ became my number one, because that was the only option I had.
Alexis was gone.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, my relationship with Trish was growing at the same time I was forming a bond with LJ. So that's why Trish and I were just as close.
Okay. And was there any kind of showmance with you and LJ, or was it just like a brother-sister relationship?
It really was, and I know I like stated that in one of my videos at Ponderosa. I was like embarrassed to see him when I went back there, because he's like the big brother who like scolds you when you do wrong, and I was just waiting for him to be like, how could you let Tony blindside you too, and there was definitely no showmance whatsoever. And like I said, we weren't even really close until we had to be when there were 5 bronze coming to our camp, and it was was just us, then we had to really stick together.
What was it like seeing him again at Ponderosa?
He just had this look in his face, like, what were you thinking? What were you doing? You know, just the disappointment.
Like, not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, and that's almost worse. Like, I would rather have been like, you're an idiot, you believe Tony, than just, you know. And his thing was, why didn't the girls pull together to make a power move? That's what he asked me. He wanted to know why we didn't flip to an all-girl alliance. But there was really, I didn't think I could beat Tosh, you know?
I was going to say, did you know that Tasha was kind of planting the seeds of that all-girls alliance?
No, there was never an all-girl alliance. There was never talk of an all-girl alliance.
It just looked like it. Okay.
One time we were back by the pond, and all the girls were back there because it was like a fresh water that was on the island, so we'd go back there to like wash our face, not in the salt water and stuff. We were back there, and the girls, Tosh approached us and said, hey, would you all think that would you want to have an all-girl alliance and take out Tony? Well, we know Tony's somewhere in the bushes listening at this point.
You do?
You know, yes.
What, do you know, are you aware of his spy shack?
Well, we didn't know about the actual spy shack, but we caught on really quick when every time he would walk away, somebody would leave camp, he's like following them, you know, and that's when we called him out.
How can anyone trust this man?
We called him out, and Trish especially called him out about it when we were in the water, when they were convincing me to come back with them. And I said, Tony, I can't stand it. Like, I can't even go walk to the water well and have a conversation with someone in my own alliance without you following us. And I didn't know he was following us to crawl in a spy shack that was so close to hear every word, but I knew he was like out there somewhere. So when we were at the pond, you know, instantly, because if I think LJ mentioned this, and while he was here talking, if Tony saw you speak to anybody, he was like paranoid and like freaking out.
Yeah.
So to shut him down, we just cut out the all-girl alliance real quick. We were like, no way, like not even thinking about it. We're gonna stick with the 5. This is how it's gonna be.
And even though you said that, were you still kind of considering maybe I should do this?
Well, it did cross my mind, obviously, because I'm still not trusting of Tony at this point. But I didn't have a lot of options, and I had already missed my opportunity to flip. And Cass and Trish weren't at all thinking about flipping to the all-girl alliance.
What is up with Cass? Like, all of a sudden, she's 100%.
Yeah, I know. She's Chaos Cass and says she's causing all this chaos, but she made her big move, and now she's on Team Tony.
She is.
She's big-time
like
Team
Tony's #1 fan.
Yeah.
I think she just liked her nickname, Chaos
I think so, too. I think
it does have a nice ring to it.
It does. It does. You know, roll with it.
Yeah, take it to heart. Do something about it.
So there was never really an all-girl alliance. We shut it down thinking that it would help. And, you know, I got to give Spencer credit because I thought, you know, being voted out up until last night watching, that it was all Tony. You know, I had no idea that Spencer planted those seeds and went back and truly told him that I was flipping on him and told him everything, which was good gameplay on his behalf when he had no other options. It sucked for me, but
and for some reason, Tony's not threatened by Spencer? Explain that. Or is he just more like, or is he just really wants to keep his like leadership and wants to rule and wants to be in charge and doesn't want any sort of dissent among his people?
Yes.
So that's why he got rid of you.
Yes, exactly.
So it's more of like an ego thing.
But this is the thing. Tony wants to vote everybody out, but then he wants, and like backstab everybody, and then he wants to turn it around and tell that it's that person's fault. So like, if he blindsided you, well, then it would be your fault.
Yeah, because you were about to turn on me, and obviously I had to get rid of you.
But before you ever even did anything, he's already gotten rid of you, and he's turned it around so that he looks like the sun shines on him, you know? And that's what he's able to do with Trish and Cass and Woo. Like, everything he tells Woo just would believe. Like, the LJ thing.
Woo doesn't seem to be the brightest bulb in the box.
You know what I mean?
He definitely wasn't on the brightest.
As Bryce said about me, not the brightest crayon in the box or something. He said that on like the first episode.
Yeah, we love Bryce. We like to give Bryce shout outs.
So he, you know, everybody just, Tony has this way of manipulating everybody to turn it back around to say it wasn't his fault. He targeted LJ because LJ was targeting Woo, which was all false. He was targeting me because I was going to flip on him, which I was, but I thought I proved my loyalty when I didn't.
Right.
You know, but now he'll, I'm sure next week he'll turn it around and tell Cass and them how he couldn't trust me, so he had to get rid of me because they couldn't trust me either. And you know,
it's really interesting watching Tony play because he's definitely working the jury.
Yes.
He puts his immunity idol around his neck and he's like, I'm in charge, and calls you out at tribal council.
Yeah.
Were you just shocked?
I was, you know, and there was another clip that had happened like right before that. Then it goes on to be a debate about Team Jefra, and is she loyal or is she not, at Tribal, which you can't show everything.
Which is such a distraction tactic, yeah.
In a 7-minute episode, you're not going to see all this, but at one point, Jeff asked Woo, Woo, do you think Jefra's loyal? And I wanted to see, the look in his eye, and I turned around. I would never forget this. I look him dead in the eye. He's like, yeah, without a doubt. I know she's with us till the end. I think she's loyal. Knowing that he's going to stand up and write my name down. So that's Survivor. That's how it works, and it sucks, and it's horrible, but they got me.
Yeah, you just have to know the rules of the game that you're playing.
Yeah.
It gets pretty nasty.
It does.
So I'm wondering, because back to the thing that you were saying about Tony and him not being able to accept responsibility and say, hey, yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Basically. How's that going to work for him at the end with the jury?
If he were to make it to the end and he's not going to own up to being the villain, he doesn't want to admit that he's playing a villain game. He wants to make nice with everybody. And when he votes them out, he wants to text them and call them and make amends and be best friends. And which is fine, outside of the game, it was a game.
So he's texting and calling you is what you're saying and making amends.
Take it for what you want.
Okay.
But he doesn't want to own it, and so if that's the case, jury usually don't like that.
They don't like that.
If you're the villain, be the villain.
He's playing kind of two different sides of jury management and then non-jury management.
Yes.
Which I love his gameplay. I mean, he's really going for it. He never takes his head out of the game. He's constantly up to something. Mm-hmm. But if he can't really just stand in his own skin and say, I made these moves, I got you, I'm sorry,
yeah,
it's what I had to do, then the jury just doesn't usually like that.
Right. And I think if he makes it to the end against Tasha or Spence, he doesn't stand a chance. Someone who's played a nice game and gotten there just by playing the game.
So you think Tasha and Spence, they've been on the bottom for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yes.
And they are still in the game.
Somehow they're pulling it out, which Tosh, I give the girl credit. Shout out to her for being an immunity challenge beast.
Yeah,
she's killing amazing. Those challenges, and she's such a strong girl, physically, that it's going to take a lot, I feel to get her off this run. This is 3 in a row now? So
yeah, 3 in a row.
I mean,
and even Jeff was win it again.
I know. Well, it's funny because when she gave him the necklace, she says, I don't want you to take it or something. He said, well, just win it again. She's like, okay. And she did. I'm props to you, girl.
All right, speaking of fans, let's take a fan question. This one's from Fiona. Fiona asks, were you always skeptical and distrusting of Tony, or was it only until when LJ was blindsided?
There was a clip that they showed the week of LJ's blindside where Trish and myself and LJ were out in the water fishing. We'd spent several hours out there and just talking gameplay and strategy and all the way to the final 3 or 2, and at that point I kind of became a little bit distrusting because of things, the paranoia. Tony's paranoia was so thick at that point that I didn't know how we were going to calm him down. I really didn't, and that was a lot of what they showed in that conversation was us telling Trish, because we knew they were like this, you've got to bring him back, you've got to calm him down. And that was kind of the point when I started not trusting Tony. I mean, when they first came to our beach, LJ and I were on the bottom, so I had to trust him, with the cliff blindside. I had no other option. It was LJ and then myself. They were going to pick us off like sitting ducks. So, I mean, up until that point, I really had to trust him.
Right. It's sort of like where Spencer is at right now. Yeah. He kind of has to go along with whatever Tony wants to do because he's in charge.
Sure.
All right, this one's from Maddie. Maddie asked, didn't any of you guys notice Tony disappearing? He found 2 idols. Why weren't you guys following him? That's true. Why weren't you following him?
He would always just say that he was going on a walk or going to use the restroom. He'd always have an excuse. And sure enough, he'd come back to camp and he'd have an idol. And
but I think you never knew that, right?
No, but I think it was to the point where Tony was frantic. To follow him all day, everywhere. I mean, we would have worn ourselves out. There was just no way. Every time he turned around, he's climbing a tree to get a coconut. I mean, they showed Woo climbing and falling, but Tony did that 100 times.
Does he have a food stash on the side that nobody knows about?
I don't know.
Taking some rice and moving it over for his own private stash?
He's literally climbing trees after the storm to cut down palm fronds. And we're like, Tony, we really don't think that's a good idea. That's really high. We'll be okay without more palm fronds. And he is hardcore, like to follow him everywhere he went would have just been ridiculous. There was just no way.
Did you look for the superpower idol?
I did. Everyone looked for idols all of the time. You know, you only see the select few who are shown, but we pretty much looked everywhere, all around camp, because the clue in the birch feast said that it was near camp, you know, and everyone else looked for it everywhere, and nobody had any luck except for Tony, and he managed to just walk right to it and find it.
And you left the game having no idea that he has that other idol.
No idea. I knew that he had the regular immunity idol that he had showed us, basically as a threat. Hey, don't vote me out. I've got an idol.
Right,
you know,
which is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, how are they going to vote him out now when he has two?
Exactly.
They're going to have to wait until idols can't be played anymore.
I know. I'm just like,
exactly. But
there's no way, because now he doesn't even have to ever play any idol.
Sure.
He can wait, and if his name is red, then he can just play his superpower idol, and then he can keep his other one, and he's got like a golden ticket to the finals.
While we're on the idols thing, I'll kind of go back to like another reason of like why I didn't flip. And when we were on the reward that day, there was a clue in the cookies that I found for an immunity idol. And so I went looking for it, and Tosh actually joined me because I was like with them at this point, thinking all I had to do was get Trish because I thought they would flip. And we went looking for it forever, and Spencer had it all along, which we didn't know. Tasha didn't know, I didn't know, no one knew. And Spencer even like took the clue from me and went like looking for it, and which he already had it at this point, or pretended he was helping me look for it, you know. And had they came out and said like, you know, we know it's only 4-4, and Spencer's like, I have this idol, like if you think it's gonna be you, like I'll keep you safe, you know, I'll use it for you. Idols are so tricky because you never know to tell people about them or not, but that would have been a little more reassurance to maybe go to the point of drawing rocks, so to speak. But
so what if Spencer would have been like, I will give you this if you vote with us tonight?
I would have flipped.
For sure.
Without a doubt. I was that just aggravated with my whole alliance, and with especially Tony.
It looked like too, like you read that letter from your mom and you were dead set. You're like,
and
this is a sign.
Yes, and I really truly thought that, because I thought like I would go back, and I was just sure that Chaos Cass would flip. She already couldn't stand Tony either. They were mad about LJ, and I'm like, we are going to have the numbers. We're going to change this whole game. And
what does she think? Is she either too comfortable, or does she think that she can win in the end against Tony?
I think that she thinks she can win in the end against Tony. Yeah. And another thing that Tony kind of has over everybody in our alliance for some reason had a really strong family connection. Like my mom and I, Trish and her brother and her daughters who were coming for the family visit, and Tony and his wife, obviously, just like 2 or 3 really strong family bonds. And assuming that there was going to be a family visit, the pact that we had made to each other was that we would stick together long enough to get to the family visit so that we could all see our families. And out there, like, you try to leave your emotions aside, but when you bring your family into it, you know, it changes the whole thing. And so
he knows exactly which buttons to push.
Exactly. That's why he's beating everyone.
He's a brilliant manipulator.
Exactly. And he would even swear, you know, on his wife and his kid and his father who's deceased. He was like swearing on his father's grave. They showed that last night in the previews. I mean, in the like recap from the week before. And it's pretty hard not to trust someone when they're making those promises. And I don't think like the editing of the show has really shown how many times he swore to us on his wife and his kid. And to me, obviously that was important, but I chose to trust that. But to him, it wasn't important at all. So, yeah.
All right, we'll ask another question. This one's from Ivan. What part of the game was hardest for you, and what was your favorite moment while in the competition?
My favorite moment, oh gosh, there were so many great moments. Like, I truly had a blast out there. It was hard, don't get me wrong. It was like the best and worst experience at the same time, but favorite moment was probably the reward where I got the letter and got to go tour the caves. Just such an amazing reward. Like, we got to go on a tour. They didn't really show all of it, like 7 different levels of the caves, and like spend the whole day there. You know, it was a pretty cool reward, and getting the letter from home. And
what was the hardest? Was it the weather?
The weather, the storm. Oh my gosh, that first
shivering.
typhoon that came through. You know, my hands were like pruned on the back sides. I didn't even know they could do that. You know, I thought just your fingers pruned on the inside. The storm was definitely the hardest.
All right, good question. All right, this one's from Patrick. What were your plans for the final? Who did you make deals with and want to sit next to at the end?
Sure. Trish and I had like a final three deal together. I obviously had a final three with Trish and LJ when we were still like strong. That all got washed away, and I was thinking that I would really like to have gone with either Cass or Woo, just because I felt like I would have had the best shot at beating them. Cass, she made one big move, but she's going to get no jury votes if she makes it that far, because Sarah and Morgan and Jeremiah and all those guys are so bitter, you know. And then if you add Tosh and Spence over there, they're going to nobody that was in her former alliance is going to vote for her. So I'm like, okay, like, you know, I'll take her. Or Woo, because he hasn't really played that big of a like strategic game either. He's just kind of going along with Tony, and a lot of people are realizing that, and a lot of people know that he's just doing what Tony says.
Did you approach either Cass or Woo about a final three?
I did not approach Woo, but Cass and I had talked about a final three. Cass had given Trish and myself her word on a final three with us.
Cass did. And you believed her?
As much as I could. I mean, I didn't.
She flipped once, but she hasn't flipped since.
Right.
I mean, it seems like she's very
And I didn't have
loyal
options.
to her
Like,
new
what are
life.
my other options? Go with Spencer and Tosh to the final three? Like, flip all together? You know, like, I'm not going with Tony, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And, I mean.
Okay, all right. Well, we have to wrap it up. Oh, we have
Alright.
one more question. This one's from #V. Who is your crush on Survivor Cagayan?
Out of who's left or all together?
Out of who's left, you don't have many options. Maybe say the whole season.
The whole season, gosh. Can I say Bryce?
I have a crush on Bryce too. I was gonna say Bryce. He's the best.
Socially, I like Bryce. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I have a Survivor crush.
And we have to tell the story before we wrap it up again. Your audition tape.
Sure.
So tell everyone, because I get questions all the time from fans about how should I make my video? I need to make myself stand out. I really want to play Survivor. Help me. So what was your video like, and what tips would you give people?
Sure. I'm pretty creative. Like, I have a journalism, you know, I studied journalism, so I'm like big into like writing and like using my imagination. But I just thought, you know what? This is what people would think you should send, and this is like the traditional like CBS Survivor tape. I'm gonna do everything the opposite. So I show myself like hunting in the woods and like being outdoorsy, and then I show myself like I put my pageant crown on like a stump, and I like shot my shot my crown, and it went flying in the air. That was sitting on the stump, and I was like, you know, I'm a pageant girl, but I'm done with that. Like, I'm ready to be Survivor, like the next ultimate Survivor. And I show myself running and like working out because I work at a gym and I'm like a fitness instructor, and I'm like, you know, I hate working out. I hate it, but I like to look good, so I work out anyway, you know. And I just did everything the opposite of what you would expect that they would want to see, and it worked for me.
Okay, good advice. So there you guys have it. All right, before I let you go, thank you so much for being with us. We have a special gift for you.
Oh, yay.
From the CBS store.
Cool.
It's a Survivor blanket, because the hardest part for you is being so cold.
Yes, you're so thoughtful.
Now you never have to be cold again.
Yay.
You guys can get yours at cbsstore.com.
Thank you.
And you can have the same blanket to snuggle under.
I'll use it on the plane going back to Kentucky.
Yeah, that's true. All right, thank you so much,
No
Jefra.
problem.
Thank you
Thanks.
guys at home for your great questions, and stick around for the exclusive extended preview. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Cass is convinced that she heard Tony's talking about her. I don't really know, but you can't convince her that that event did not happen. But if the two of them are at each other's throats, then he takes the target off of me.
How old are you, 40 you said?
Mm-hmm.
You act like you're a 4-year-old.
That's why I'm composed and you're not.
Yeah.
Hopefully in the next 2 months you'll do a little growing before you actually hit 40.
Oh, wow. I'll take that advice from you.
I'm not the one having a tantrum.
I'm not either.
I just think it's funny you're totally losing your mind and self-destructing out here.
I'll never self-destruct, my honey. Never happen. Well, you gonna vote me out?
I think I will write your name down.
You know what's gonna happen? You're gonna go home.
That's fine.
Okay? As long as we clear the air.
Yeah, make sure you play your idol.
Listen, don't tell me how to play. You write my name down, you're going home.
Play your idol.
Write my name down,
I will, Tony.
and you'll go home.
Because you're running the show?
And you'll go home. No, because I got a
Here's
special
more.
idol, that's why. That's why.
I'm sure you do.
You guys hear that? Spence, you heard what I told her?
He has a special
idol.
idol.
And you'll go home. Put my name down.
So show it to us.
I don't have to. Put my name down, and you'll see it.
I'm going to.
You'll be the first to see it.